Hello everyone. Welcome to SHR Trinity. In our previous video, we explored zero-shot prompting. Today, we advance to the next critical technique, role/persona prompting. In this video, we will cover the foundational interview questions on role/persona prompting, explaining how providing just a single example can drastically improve a model's accuracy and format adherence. Let's get started. Before we begin, if you're looking for practical, industry-oriented training in artificial intelligence and generative AI, SHR Trinity offers a comprehensive 30-hour training program. For complete course details, check the description below. Now let's begin today's interview session. We will now begin with the interview questions for role/persona prompting, Part 1, Basic Fundamentals. Question 1. What is role prompting, persona adoption, and why does it work in large language models?
Role prompting is a technique where you instruct the model to adopt a specific persona, profession, or perspective before answering. It works because it constrains the model's token probability distribution, steering attention towards domain-specific vocabulary, concepts, and formats. At their core, LLMs are next token predictors trained on vast, heterogeneous web text. By establishing a persona, e.g., act as a senior database administrator, you activate a specialized subspace of the model's training data. This changes the initial context, causing the attention mechanism to prioritize professional patterns over general web banter. For example, standard, write a query. Role-based, act as a senior PostgreSQL DBA. Optimize this query for a high-traffic production table with 10M rows. A common mistake is assuming a persona makes a model smarter. It simply aligns and filters existing knowledge rather than adding new capabilities. As an interview tip, explain that role prompting acts as a context filter on the model's vast multi-domain training weights.
Question 2. How do you construct a highly effective role prompt? What is the ideal syntax?
An ideal role prompt contains 4 core elements: persona definition, context setting, task description, and output constraints. Combining these clearly maximizes performance. Vague instructions like act as an expert fail to provide structural guidance. The most effective syntax specifies the role's background, standard operating environment, target audience level, and formatting requirements, e.g., act as a principal security engineer. Review this Python script. Output a bulleted list of vulnerabilities categorized by OWASP risk level. For example, role, Senior Product Manager. Context, launching a B2B SaaS tool. Task, write a PRD. Constraints, keep it under 2 pages, use clear markdown headers. A common mistake is providing conflicting instructions within the same role definition, such as asking for a simple explanation but assigning a hyper-technical persona. As an interview tip, use a structured template format, role, context, task, constraints, to make prompts readable and maintainable.
Question 3. What is the structural difference between system prompts and user prompts in role prompting?
System prompts set the persistent identity, behavioral guidelines, and rules for the model across the entire session. User prompts provide the transient instructions and inputs for specific queries. In API architectures, the system prompt is injected at the beginning of the context and remains highly weighted. Setting the role in the system prompt ensures the persona remains stable over long conversations, whereas setting it in the user prompt risks identity decay as the context window grows. For example, system, you are a technical support agent who only answers in JSON format. User, reset my password. A common mistake is putting transient query inputs into the system prompt, which causes the model to carry stale state into subsequent turns. As an interview tip, always define the persona and core constraints in the system message, reserving the user message for query inputs.
Question 4. How does defining a persona mathematically shift the token prediction probabilities?
Defining a persona primes the attention layers by prefixing the input with tokens representing the persona. These prefix tokens increase the conditional probability of domain-relevant tokens appearing in the output. In transformer models, the probability of generating the next token is conditioned on all preceding tokens. Prefixing a prompt with professional tokens like medical researcher suppresses low-probability casual vocabulary and heavily boosts the likelihood of professional, medical-grade terminology. For example, prefixing with pediatrician increases the probability of child-friendly healthcare terms compared to prefixing with surgeon. A common mistake is using generic terms like expert, which does not shift the probability distribution as sharply as highly specific roles like kernel developer. As an interview tip, use highly specific, narrow roles rather than broad, generic ones to maximize token probability shifts.
Question 5. Why does role prompting help reduce hallucinations in domain-specific tasks?
Role prompting reduces hallucinations by restricting the boundaries of what is considered relevant context, forcing the model to operate within a specific frame of reference where its training data is dense and consistent. Hallucinations often occur when a model tries to bridge disparate domains of knowledge. By explicitly commanding the model to stay in character, e.g., act as a verified tax auditor, you suppress general knowledge extrapolations that might contradict domain-specific regulations. For example, an LLM explaining a tax code behaves much more accurately when restricted to a tax CPA persona than when asked as a general writing assistant. A common mistake is expecting role prompting to eliminate hallucinations entirely on topics where the model has no underlying training data. As an interview tip, frame role constraints as a boundary system that prevents the model from wandering into unfamiliar domains.
Question 6. What is the impact of context priming in role prompts?
Context priming prepares the model's internal representations by establishing the setting, tools, and background before presenting the core task. This significantly improves comprehension of complex inputs. Priming is like warming up the model's attention heads. By detailing the scene, e.g., you are auditing a database server that went down at 2 a.m. due to high locking contention, you force the model to retrieve context-specific vectors associated with incident response. For example, you are a senior DevOps engineer responding to an outage. The server has 100% CPU utilization. Inspect these logs. A common mistake is skipping context priming and jumping directly to the query, which gives the model no framework for interpreting complex data. As an interview tip, always establish the environment and context before introducing the data or code to be analyzed.
Question 7. What are the common mistakes when choosing a persona for simple tasks?
Common mistakes include choosing overly complex or irrelevant personas, which adds token overhead and introduces unnecessary jargon or convoluted explanations to simple queries. Using a principal research scientist persona to write a simple email reply is counterproductive. The model will adopt a verbose, overly formal tone, increasing API cost and annoying the reader with irrelevant complexity. For example, using a legal consultant persona to write a simple apology note to a coworker. A common mistake is enforcing a highly specialized persona on every task, regardless of whether the task requires that level of detail. As an interview tip, match the complexity of the persona to the complexity of the task, keep simple tasks zero role or use general assistant personas.
Question 8. How do you verify and test if a persona prompt is successfully guiding the model's output?
You verify persona adherence by checking the output's vocabulary density, tone alignment, formatting style, and response length against a predefined rubric. Adherence testing can be automated by evaluating outputs with a secondary LLM using criteria like, did the response use technical DBA jargon, or is the tone appropriately empathetic? You can also check metrics like average sentence length and readability index. For example, using a grading prompt, Evaluate the output. On a scale of 1 to 5, did the model speak in character as a child-friendly teacher? A common mistake is relying on subjective human reviews for high-volume production prompt testing. As an interview tip, advise building automated grading prompts, LLM as a judge, to measure persona alignment quantitatively.
Question 9. Can role prompting be combined with zero-shot prompting?
Yes, role-based zero-shot prompting is simply instructing the model to adopt a persona and execute a task immediately without providing any reference examples. This is the most common form of prompting. By defining a role, e.g., act as a translator, and providing a query, you leverage the model's general zero-shot classification capabilities within that specific role's domain. For example, you are an English to Spanish translator. Translate this text, hello. Do not output anything else. A common mistake is assuming zero-shot role prompts are sufficient for highly complex, structured outputs without few-shot examples. As an interview tip, use zero-shot role prompts for simple, highly standardized tasks where the model's default behavior is reliable.
Question 10. What is the expert role bias and how do you prevent the model from overpromising?
Expert role bias occurs when a model assigned a senior or expert persona generates overconfident, plausible-sounding but incorrect answers to appease the user, rather than admitting uncertainty. Models are optimized to follow instructions. If you command them to be a genius doctor, they may feel forced to provide a definitive diagnosis even when the data is insufficient. Prevent this by explicitly prompting the model to state limitations and admit when it lacks information. For example, you are a senior physician. Diagnose this issue, but if the symptoms are vague, state that you require more tests and explain why. A common mistake is forcing the model into an expert role without giving it an exit route to state uncertainty or lack of context. As an interview tip, always include a clause like, if you do not have enough data to be certain, state what information is missing.
Excellent. You've completed role/persona prompting, Part 1, Basic Fundamentals. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into using one-shot prompting to enforce strict JSON and XML outputs for API integrations. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, subscribe to SHR Trinity, and press the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming AI interview preparation videos. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.